This is the NEEWER GM37 three-way pan and tilt tripod head. I was sent this to review for free. If you wanted to purchase it, it would cost you about $95. They haven't paid me for my review, and my opinions remain my own. Alright, so in the box we have a bag with the tripod head itself and this little instruction book. This unit weighs in at 20.6 ounces or 584 grams. Alright, let's run through the features here. So it's got a 3/8 inch socket here to screw onto a tripod. There is a panoramic base, so you basically can pan it this way. This is the pan lock right there. And it has gradations from 0 to 360. So there's, that's your panning, right, like that. And then you unlock this guy and you have your tilt head, like so. So that's all pretty standard. But then above the pan tilt head, we have a 15-degree plus or minus leveling ball. So this guy here, you can level plus minus 15 degrees, which is all well and good. They have a bubble level up here, so you can adjust this until it's where you want it, and then you can lock this thing down. But let's say your tripod was off axis and you need to level this thing. So you twist it a bit and you lock it in place. Now, when you pan this guy, you're turning this guy and you're not turning our level anymore because this guy is above the pan head. So I am not certain as to why they have the 15-degree leveling ball base above the pan tilt head, other than maybe to give room for this guy, which is your vertical tilt. And it can go this way a bit, but the idea is you flip it over 90 degrees to go between horizontal and vertical aspect ratio. Now, they have a bubble level here, but there's no way for this bubble level to be sitting like that. So I think they just had a knob with a bubble level and they just shipped it, because that is your quick release plate knob. And I do like they have this thing has this guy so you can screw it in by hand, but they also have the pop out little mini hex wrench so you can go in there and get a little bit of mechanical advantage if you really want to tighten that thing down. So it's kind of the Arca style clamping plate. It has a little bit of saddle action. I mean, we're talking maybe 10 millimeters total back and forth, unless you were to remove these guys here, but they have a different style, different size head. So you can, you clamp it in and you're set up there. This guy you can move back and forth a lot as well. So let's put a camera on this guy. This lock down here is your pan lock, and there is an indicator right here, so if you're trying to go every 5 degrees or something to take a panorama, you can use that indicator to kind of see how far you're going. You lock this down, it goes there. This lock here is the tilt lock, so that will allow tilt control. And then you have this guy, which is your 15-degree plus or minus ball, and so there is a bubble level in here. So if the camera's not mounted, you can get this guy level, and when you're happy with how it's set up, then you can lock that guy in place. And this little knob over here, it does extend if you need it to. That guy controls your tilt, and so you basically can go from vertical to horizontal aspect ratio very quickly. There's no level that tells you exactly when you're horizontal again, but most of your cameras will have something built in, so you can use your camera's leveling indicator to hook that up to level. So I guess my first real question about this whole setup is, why is the leveling ball above the pan head? Because if I were to say level this guy, and so I've leveled it, now when I'm panning, it's not going to pan on the level. So I would expect the best use of the leveling ball would be underneath the pan head. And maybe it's just to give enough room for this guy to flip back and forth. I'm not seeing a lot of benefit to having the leveling ball in here. I mean, it gives you a little bit of flexibility if you just want to, set a little bit of correction sometime when you have a fixed camera. But if you're panning and tilting, it seems like as you pan and tilt, that leveling head is going to get in your way unless it's set just to be perfectly level. So I'm not quite sure what the advantage is of having that leveling ball in there. So ease of use, the pan is very smooth. If I lock it down a little bit, it starts to grab. So it's grabbing every so often. I'm going to release it a bit. So there's no place where it's giving friction but not grabbing. So it basically, you unlock it, it turns very smoothly, but there's not a lot of friction. And if I release it a whole bunch more, you know, there's the same amount of friction regardless of how much you're doing. So basically, the pan head is a lock-unlock. So the tilt head, I can get a little more friction, and it's pretty smooth operating. So I can tilt this guy with a little bit of friction or with a significant amount of friction, and it has a pretty good balance there. And as I turn this, I add or subtract friction. So the vertical horizontal head here, I actually don't have adjusted right. Let me adjust that. All right, so the vertical horizontal flip, it's certainly easy to do. I don't know of a reason you'd really want to do this in a slow and controlled manner, but it does have some variable friction as you're tightening and loosening things as you go. I would have really liked to see some type of a bubble level here to know when this is horizontal as opposed to this guy, because there's no way for this bubble level to be tilted straight up. I guess if you did this, you could use it to level your camera that way, but I'm really not seeing that as a useful place for a bubble level here. I think they just used the standard knob with bubble level. All right, so it's a 3-axis tripod head. It's non-geared, and it has a rating of 13 pounds or 6 kilograms, which is perfectly reasonable for what is built here. I'm pretty happy with the build quality. Everything looks very nice. Everything acts pretty nice. You know, high quality aluminum components. So, you know, build quality is fine. I think it's really more of the design of like, why is this 15-degree ball head up above the pan tilt axis? I don't see a compelling use case for that, other than maybe in a fixed camera position you want to, you know, quickly level something. And the problem there is that to use the bubble level on top, you really have to take your camera off to be able to see that bubble level to, you know, level things, and then you can put this guy back in place. I appreciate that these handles pop out. It's not giving you a really long handle, but it's certainly better than with it popped in non-extended. So is it worth the price? I don't know. I mean, you can get a pan tilt head for less, and having the ability to flip this guy horizontal and vertical really quickly, that's always nice to have. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to use this leveling ball if you don't want to, so if you don't have a use for it, just don't use it. But I think you definitely want to, you know, comparison shop the features you actually need. I'm not certain that paying for all the extra features here is necessarily something that everybody needs.